You're like, hey, I made this place cool.
That's right. Put the roof on top of here, and this is... Hey, welcome to All Over Voiceover with Kif VH. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm thrilled to have in studio my friend, the lovely, the talented Miss America Young. Thank you so much for coming in here, dude. It's just great to be able to sit down and talk with you.
Yeah, I love being here, dude. Thanks.
You're welcome, dude. Anytime.
Dude.
We were just talking about GamerCon, which is it's like do you know more about GamerCon than I do? Do you know much about GamerCon?
I think I might. Brian started GamerCon. It happens at the same time as San Diego Comic-Con, but it's just a few blocks away. Yeah. And from what I remember, he created it as an answer to the fact that as Comic-Con grew in popularity, the spaces for people to actually game got smaller and smaller. So he created it as an answer to that. And it's Gamer, GAM 3. 3 is the E, yeah. Yeah, GamerCon. And it's just really fun. It goes back to the grassroots of what kind of started the convention to begin with, and it's about the love of gaming. And Brian had us there on a voiceover panel, and that's where you and I met.
That's where we met, yeah. And Eliza was there, and Tadashore, who actually just had in, and Yuri and Tara were
Yuri and Tara and Aaron Fitzgerald, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Yeah, really good.
It was a really great panel. It was so much fun. Awesome. Well, you mentioned that you've been going to cons for like forever. Like, how'd you get interested or started, or what brought you down this path that led you to where you are today?
It's just always been an interest of mine, and I remember the first time that I realized that San Diego Comic-Con was happening. Some place where I could actually go. You know, I'd always heard of it for years, and my friend Stephanie and I just decided to hop on a train and go down one day spontaneously, and I've been going ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where are you? Are you from here originally?
No, I've moved around a ton. But I've lived here for a while.
What's your trajectory? Where'd you start?
I started in New Mexico, and I moved about 12 places, 12 different states since, and then ended up here.
Very cool.
Yeah, all over the place.
What brought you here? Like, you always wanted to do this work, or what's kind of been the motivating factor for you? Like,
I came out here to tell stories, and originally I thought, and I still do in some regards, I thought that was through acting, but I now realize that there's other ways of telling stories, and so I love just telling stories in whatever capacity I get a chance to. But originally it was through acting, and I thought I'd come out here for a couple years and try it out and see how it went, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go to college, or did you go to high school? Did you go to high school? Did you get a GED? Did you drop out of junior high and then
just like Harpo Marx, I stopped after second grade. I haven't been back. I climbed out a window and never went back.
I gotta say, I'm impressed with your reading skills.
Oh,
it's
thanks.
really
Thanks.
You have to be pretty accomplished to be able to get as far.
Well, I actually don't read. I just have someone read it to me out loud.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
You just use their interpretation of the script, mimic that, so you must have a really good ear.
Yeah, that's the main thing. You know, it gets a little complicated in voiceover sessions where they have to read the copy to me, and then I have to do it again. And
you kind of have to give a little bit of space, otherwise you're overlapping and it's a mess.
But I always make sure to hire someone who's a bad actor to read it to me, because I don't want them to read it out loud, and then the people in the booth go, oh, they did it better than she did it, so let's just hire her and cut out the middleman.
Isn't the worst moment in the world during a session that moment where they're like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
And then it's the silence of 45 seconds of them talking and arguing. And they're probably just ordering lunch, but in reality, you're going, they're totally recasting right now.
I was just talking about that with Yuri. Like, there's so many moments. There's a moment that he tells is just hilarious that he was pretty sure he was going to get fired, and they were just arguing over lunch. And they were tired of having Ty for 3 times. And he just sees the signs of them arguing and gesturing at him. Yeah. And he's like, oh, my God. And we've all had those moments where it just, hold on a second, quiet, and then there's a huge discussion, and the entire time you're like, all right, okay, so when I get fired, how am I gonna, you just start, your whole life is unraveling in front of you, and your relationships are gonna fall apart, and you're not gonna be able to cover rent, and then you're gonna have to move home, and there's a whole horror of hell is happening in your head, and then they get back on the button, and the worst is when they don't even tell you what they were talking about, and they're like, okay, great, so that was wonderful, we're moving on.
Right. It's so, it's crazy, and that's so universal. It's really good to hear you describe that precise thing.
Yeah.
Because they do the same thing of just sitting there unraveling. Oh, absolutely. I'm learning to talk myself out of doing that.
Good.
The thing that helps me is going, no matter if they fire me, they still have to pay me for the session.
That's a good one.
So that's a good place to begin, that at least no matter what, because, I mean, I'm sure we've all had that. Do you do a lot of commercials? Are you commercial stuff at all?
I've done a lot of on-camera commercial. I actually haven't done any commercial voiceover.
Okay. In the commercial, like, in particular in commercial, and you've certainly dealt with this on camera, I'm sure, with, like, you do an on-camera commercial and then it doesn't run forever. And you're like, well, why did I tell my friends? Or why was I planning on it? Or any of those things. It's just, I had an agent back in Cleveland who said, it's not real until you see it on air.
Yeah.
And that is the one of the few truisms that's so universal that I'm kind of like, yeah, you know what? You can take that to the bank.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true.
I would even most take that even one step further, that it's not real until the check clears.
Yeah.
Because you can see it on air, but then that check might be delayed. I was in an ad campaign for... I don't even remember what it was for, but it was following a dog, and each commercial the dog was like crossing the country and met up with a new group of people and had an adventure with that. And so we were one commercial out of like 6 commercials, and the whole thing was supposed to air during the Oscars. Like, it was this huge thing that we were so excited about. I told everyone. And then ours was the only one they didn't air.
Oh, God.
And they aired all of them except for ours. And, you know, I think it's because we were shooting with the dog on the beach and it was overcast that day. That's what I tell myself. I tell myself it was because of the weather and not because of something that I did that made them not air the commercial.
Because it was your fault.
It was my fault entirely.
You take all the ownership of it. You know? I mean, I was in a film that came out this past year called Danny Collins with Al Pacino, and had a scene like...
That's amazing.
Yeah, like 7/8 of a page, two-hander with Al. And I got an amazing email from Dan Fogelman, who's the director, and he created, Gallivant, and he wrote Cars and Rapunzel. What is it? Tangled. So like Tangled. All the stuff, and he's a wonderful director. And it was the last night of the shoot, and when Al and I got done, Al put his arm around me and said, "I can work all night with this guy." Like, I made him break on camera, like all this stuff, and it didn't make the final cut.
Your scene didn't?
Yeah. I'm in it. In the very beginning of that scene but the scene didn't. And I'm so grateful that Dan sent me that note saying, hey, man, this breaks my heart
That's
to tell
so
you
classy
this.
of him to do that.
Right?
Yeah, because otherwise you would absolutely think it was something that you had done.
Was that wildly inappropriate?
I think as an artist, you do that to yourself. And I think that's what makes us strive to be better and better. But I also think that's what makes us so miserable sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he did that. That was such a classy thing for him to do.
It really was. And that entire experience was like, it was insane. It was insane. And then
You used the term two-hander. Somebody just used that the other day, and I don't actually know what that means.
This would be a two-hander. Okay. 2 people doing a scene.
Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I've never heard of a three-hander, but yeah, it's a term that my wife uses for a 2-person play.
Okay.
So, like, for example, I'm not Rappaport.
But it's not indicative of like how big the crew is, or whether it's like the same person who's directing is shooting it. It's not that kind of thing. It's just a scene between 2 people.
That's right.
Okay.
And it usually the implication too, I believe, is the amount of work that the 2 actors are going to be doing
in that scene. So like 7.5. We just 7 and 3. So how big was it?
So 7/8 of a scene, 7/8 of a page. So I wouldn't say that it was necessarily a two-hander. I think I stole that term to apply to. It was a 2-person scene, and it was Al Pacino.
Yeah, but it's Al Pacino, so that makes it twice as long. So that's definitely two-hander. I mean, anything he's in is a two-hander.
That's right.
For sure. And then you're in it, so that math just adds up. I think we're at 12-hander right
I think
now.
we are at 12. There you go. I love it. So, you do quite a bit of motion capture work too, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
What's that experience like for you, coming from a background of on camera and then making that transition to doing that sort of work?
It's an interesting transition because coming from on camera, it's nothing like it. It's actually much more similar to theatrical, being on the stage, because you're performing entirely with your body, and there's so much about being on camera on film where it's just pretty much about your face and your eyes, and you actually are really restricted in your movement. And so being able to channel creating a character with your entire body definitely, I think, is more of a theatrical theater training kind of experience.
Yeah.
But I love it because of the freedom of it. You know, you're surrounded at any given moment between 30 to 130 cameras. So you never have to worry about hitting your mark. You still have to within the digital world that they've built that you're in.
The volume, right?
The volume, yeah. But in terms of the actual the world that they've built, so the volume is the space that you're in with the cameras all around you, and then they will mark out on the floor like, okay, this is where the desk is. This is the wall. Don't walk here. And you just have to remember where those marks are.
Do you put do they put like spike tape on the floor and stuff like that to help?
They'll put tape. They'll put like an apple box. They'll put but I love it because it's all in your imagination. Very rarely do you have an actual set. So I love being able to just live in your world like that. But other than that, you can spin, turn. You don't have to worry about cheating to camera or not cheating towards camera or cheating towards the audience. There's just such a freedom in the amount that you get to play physically that I haven't found in any other medium, even in theater, which I love. Yeah. But you still have to be aware of your audience at all time. And in motion capture, you don't have to as much. There's a lot more freedom with your body and just being as natural as possible. And you and I were kind of talking about this off camera. Games are getting more and more and more towards performance-based and making it as natural and as real and as grounded as possible, especially when you're in these ridiculous situations, so that people feel connected to it.
Right. So, bringing that level of humanity and giving them a sense of the relationships in the scene. Like,
right.
I'm deep in Witcher 3 right now. I'm playing. I've really enjoyed that game.
Good. I've heard such great things.
It's and there's the central relationship, a couple of the central relationships of the player character of Geralt, along with like some of the other different characters. I mean, it's so relationship driven, but God, the sound design of that game is mind blowing.
Oh yeah,
like the weather effects and all of it. It's so amazing how far developed these games continue to push, and and how much the human element really brings it to life.
Absolutely. There's so much more cinematic. I mean, movies and video games are getting closer and closer to each other.
Yeah.
But video games, the cinematically how they're shooting things, how they're storyboarding everything out, how the performances are getting, the way they're lighting within the digital world. I mean, it's just stunning. It's really amazing what they're creating.
Were you involved in and I haven't confirmed it at all. I just know that when I saw you post it on Facebook, I was like, did America work on that part? That the beginning of Halo 5, that whole drop sequence?
Yeah.
So you're in that with the Marines and all that stuff. What was that particular shoot like in terms of, because I know it's all one shot, but like, was it multiple things, and what was the choreography like of an experience like that? And the second part in that, the second part, it's not a friggin' debate, so go ahead. Tell me that first part, and then I'll ask a follow-up.
All right. Working in Halo 5 was kind of a dream. I've been such a fan of the games, and the first day on set, when you're on set, you have your suit on, and then there's monitors all around you where they've kind of put the skin of the character you're playing on you.
Oh, wow.
So I'm looking at the monitor, and I'm moving, and there's a Spartan moving. And it was really a surreal experience. And that team was incredible because they definitely, more than almost any other game I've worked on, definitely approached it more in as a film in terms of the scope and the way they were choreographing it. Tom Williams was our stunt coordinator, and he was unbelievable. And so for that long sequence, you only have so much room in the volume.
Yeah.
So we did have to kind of do it in pieces,
okay,
bit by bit, but it was all choreographed.
Is there a certain amount of continuity that you need to maintain for that? Like, for example, if you're going to do a chunk, let's say you're running and then you jump over a boulder. I don't know. And then, exactly. As you do. Because when you're storming Earth...
boulders get in the way.
And you gotta leap over them. That's what Spartans do, because you got
or you just
awesome
go through
suit.
it.
Or just go through it.
Right.
Bust it. Who cares? You got a suit, It's going to recharge in a second.
Absolutely.
Just be patient. Like, if you do it in chunks, do you have to keep track of what's the script supervisor sort of like thing in your brain going, whether you have to either keep track of something like the end of a certain segment, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you never really run out of frame.
It's It's you do have to have a little bit of an overlap to make the animators' lives better, but there's definitely a partnership between the motion capture, performance capture, and the animators because it's an amazing what they can do with what we give them. That's what I love so much about video games and doing this is that more and more people are doing the same people doing the voice or doing the body who are doing the face, and I think that there are certain people who can pull that off, and it's breathtaking. But genuinely, I love it when you have somebody who is spectacular and brilliant and nuanced doing the voice. And then you have someone who's extremely expressive and wonderful doing the face. And then you have somebody who physically is in their body and knows how to perform physical feats in their body. And then you put them all together, and then you have the animator take all that information and just on top of that make it even more incredible. And you end up with like a Voltron-type brilliant character because you've got the best of 5 to 6 different people all in one character. So I personally love that. That being said, my hat is off to anybody who can do all 3 all at once.
Yeah.
So in terms of continuity, we would do a little bit of overlap.
Okay.
But they also always know, they have it all mapped out where the camera is going to be at any given moment. So if you go back and you watch that, you'll see that it follows certain characters and it'll follow one character out and then it'll pick up this character as this one passes frame and then we leave this camera. And so since they have that mapped out within a second of life, they know exactly what they need us to do and where. So the continuity makes it a little bit easier for them to blend frames if they have to. And,
I see.
But that way, it's also we're not following one person all the way through. It's we're trading perspectives there.
Very nice, and giving focus back and forth as you do that.
That's what made that so dynamic. Is they brilliantly plotted that out, so you're not just following one person. You're seeing them all come out, and they just here's their hero moment, and then we whip pan over to this guy, and this guy's kicking the crap out of somebody, and then you whip that. So that's what makes that such a dynamic thing is they really are grasping the idea of how to make it cinematic.
In your performance capture work, what things have you done and continue to do to prepare yourself to do that type of work? Are you more, do they call you more for, America, we need you for stunt work and energy and that kind of stuff? Or do you get like, it's performance capture like, what was that? Although they did all the mocap they did in Japan, and then we just voiced it. What was the game we just did?
Bayonetta.
I don't know. It was a game. I did some stuff in it, and it was. And now I can't remember the name of it. But there's a big. It was terrifying. It was a horror game.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
And it's like it's the evil within. That's it.
Yeah.
The evil within. And that was a crazy experience to do the voice work over the performance capture of, some dudes after the game had already been released in Japan to go back to the source material and look at what they had done and then try to update for the American version. So but they performance capture like a cop walking slowly around a room. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question is, what's more your forte, or do you have like the multidisciplinary ability to do, I can do, karate, taekwondo, etc., or jumps and falls? Are you like stunt person more, or is it like a combination of all things?
I've done it all. There are definitely things I feel like I'm stronger at, and that there's definitely things where I feel like people are better trained at than I am to do. So there's 3 basic breakdowns that happen with motion capture. The first breakdown, which is where kind of motion capture started before it became became more cinematic and storytelling, is just in-game movements. So we will just do series after series after series of jumping, leaping, lunging, swiping, kicking, and it's really tedious and it's really exhausting. You have to do, it feels like miles of crouch runs with different weapons. You have to die in every single conceivable direction that you might possibly die in, and then they're capturing those movements, and that's what. So when you're in the game and you're hitting jump, most likely somebody captured that jump movement, and the animators will make it higher or they'll make it.
But they still need that source to work off. It's the same as doing like a really grueling voice session where you're blowing your pipes out, doing just acid tedious death, now burn death.
Yes, exactly.
You're covering all those variables.
Exactly, every variable, and I know the animators are capable of doing it without us. I think we expedite the issue for them and hopefully come up with things that they didn't think of. But it's super tedious. It's, you'll do it for 2 or 3 days. You're exhausted. I remember the first time I did in-game, I had no idea what it was, and I couldn't walk the next day.
Oh, my God,
I was so sore because you're in a crouch, and you're running back and forth, and then you have to do one with each type of weapon. And then you have to do crouch coming from every single direction from behind a wall, to take cover. And then you have to, so it's that kind of so that's in-game stuff.
Okay.
Which is mainly about stamina and someone who can come up with interesting nuances to make that different so it's not the same thing over and over again. Okay. And then you have you have your cutscenes.
Yes.
And you have cutscenes in 2 different ways. You have cutscenes in terms of and then you have your stunts. So then the stunts are going to be more actual choreography, and I've stunt doubled people in game. So, for example, on Call of Duty, I stunt doubled Aaron Cahill, and there's different people you stunt double in games. And in Uncharted, I stunt double Claudia Black.
Okay.
So I'm her stunt double in those games. And so that's they did the performance stuff, and then they call me in to do the things where they're getting knocked over or killed or scaling a wall or have to do an actual fight sequence or something. So then that's just basically the stunts aspect of it. And then the other part of it is the cutscenes, which I mentioned before, but I'm actually going to talk about. Uh-huh. And there's 2 ways of doing the cutscenes. There's the performance cutscenes where you're the voice and the face and they're recording the whole scene. And then there's times where you will have recorded the voiceover already, and then I will be acting almost like lip syncing to what you've already recorded.
Yeah.
And that's where it's so great to have an amazing voiceover actor, because the nuances, the breath that someone chooses to take, all of that you want to capture in your body, so that it's all synced in and it has the layers that the voiceover create. So you can add layers to a performance.
Yeah.
That's cutscenes, so those are actual dialogue scenes. And there can be fights in there and there can be stunts in it, but usually it's more about the performance, and it's more about walking slowly around a room as a cop or confronting someone who betrayed you, or that's usually where a lot of the heart in the story is. And it's definitely interesting because I worked on a game. I'm going to avoid names just because I don't want to spread negativity. But I worked on a game, and the voice of the game was a very famous actor who did not want to be involved but had to contractually. Okay? Uh-huh. So he insisted on only doing 1 take of each line. And he did it in the most deadpan way possible because that's how he's known for his performance. But his character was supposed to be kind of nuts and kind of possessed. And so it was interesting that... And the lines implied that he was possessed. And it's interesting that the person who was doing his motion capture was really torn because he wasn't getting a performance to work with. And so did he then have to physically show that he was crazy?
Yeah, and cover that in that aspect of the performance.
Exactly.
Or honor the intention of the performance that wasn't committed.
That wasn't really wanting to be there to begin with. So he ended up he's a great performer, so he found a way of making them both work. So it's just so much fun, the crafting of it, and so many times you never actually meet the people that you are doing the body for, that who's doing the voice, that doesn't meet who is your body, but it's a really cool community to be part of.
Oh, that's great. How did you prepare to enter that community? Was it from fandom and then it came to you, or were you had an audition for it and were able to get into it? What was your process of getting into motion capture, performance capture?
I was doing stunts on a film, and the stunt coordinator in that film was casting this video game. And my first video game, it was Spider-Man 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I came in and I did it. And I had the advantage of having stunt training, so I was physically in my body, but I also had the advantage of having theater training. Yeah. And so I knew about building characters and all of that. And so I came in and I got to play Mary Jane and Black Hat, and it was really a fun experience to get to be part of that. And so and then that just kind of, once you're kind of in that community and they know that you're somebody whose work they can count on, and they can count on you being there and being pleasant.
Yes,
it helps. The work starts to snowball. So that was just a really lucky break for me to be able to get into audition for that.
That's amazing. That's great.
Thank you.
What about the voiceover side of it? How did that come to you?
Voiceover I started way before I even moved out here. I got cast in a cartoon called Archie's Weird Mysteries, which was like actually back in Nebraska. And I played Betty Cooper.
That's awesome.
I'm not a voluptuous blonde, but I play one in cartoons. And that was just an amazing experience, and it's just something that I continued to pursue once I got out here.
How did you get cast in that from Nebraska? Were they out of was it a nationwide search, or were they producing it locally?
They were producing it locally.
Wow.
Because I guess Nebraska is a right-to-work state.
Yes.
And they found that there was no regional accent specifically in Omaha.
Interesting.
Which is also why I think they do a lot of things up in Canada. And so those two things combined, they were working out of Omaha. And I was in an acting class in school, and a guy had come to talk to us about being a working actor in Omaha, and he was an incredible actor locally, and he was talking about how he just got cast to be in this cartoon. And I remember that was my epiphany moment. Like, I watched cartoons forever as a kid, but I have a very strong imagination, and so when I watched cartoons, I just let myself believe that those were real. You know, when I'm watching the Ninja Turtles, those are actual turtles that live in the sewer system, and there's not somebody behind the animation.
Right.
I'm happier that way, believing that. And so that was my epiphany when he said they got cast in this commercial or this cartoon, because it had never really occurred to me to separate that out. So I went up to him afterwards and I said, "Hey, how does somebody get cast in a cartoon? I know that when you're on camera, you get cast, you have a headshot and a resume. How does someone do that for a cartoon?" And he thought I meant specifically, not generally. And he said, "Well, they're still casting. Do you want me to see if you can audition?" And I said, and I was terrified, but I said yes. And he called the producer. So I just spoke at this class of 100 kids, and this is the only person who approached me afterwards. And she said, "Well, she's got chutzpah. Let her audition."
Wow.
And I think but I don't think any of us thought I was going to book it. You know, I think they thought that this was going to be a good experience for me, but I don't think I didn't think I was going to book anything. So I went in. He helped me a lot and prepped my audition, and I went in and I auditioned for 3 different characters. And I had read tons of Archies as a kid, so I had the character work down.
That's it. You know, that's the great thing about a lot of those, especially classic characters like, you know, Archie and Jughead and Betty and Veronica and stuff. You just know them. They're part of your lexicon.
Absolutely.
Especially growing up, kind of when we grew up, like that stuff is just kind of lying around at like the. You know,
well, they're at the checkout lane.
Yeah.
And every single checkout lane, every single grocery store, there's there, whether you read them or not.
You didn't have to go to a comic book store and find Image Comics and figure out what Spawn is to know who those characters are.
Right. And so I already knew who they were, and so I got the call from the producer, and I did 39 out of 40 episodes.
Oh my God.
Of it, and it was just an amazing experience. But we did it all there with the local talent, and it was called Archie's Weird Mysteries. So it was kind of like Scooby-Doo meets the X-Files, because they're actually real. They were actual.
Oh wow.
You know, supernatural occurrences that were happening. And that was my first introduction to animation, and it was the most fun.
That's amazing.
I couldn't believe it. And actually, my Archie on that show, his name is Andrew Rannells, who went on to be the lead role of Book of Mormon.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he's working like crazy, and he was somebody, the minute you saw him, you knew he was going to be a star. He walked in the room, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's what that is. That's what that thing is." That is.
When they say he's got it, that's it. Oh, okay. Now I see what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
What do I got to? Okay.
Is it contagious? Like maybe
Exactly.
rub up against him a little. He was amazing. Yeah, it was just an incredible experience, and that producer, her name is Marcia Goodman, and I'm still in contact with her.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
She's incredible.
What a cool story.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the take home out of that whole experience too is like, we say it all the time in this thing, and I say it all the time to myself, but don't wait.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter where you are. If you can land by reaching out and asking those questions and being curious.
Just ask. I mean, that's the lesson that I have to keep reminding myself, and especially when you've been out in LA for a while and you're surrounded, and every time you tell someone you're an actor and they look at you like oh, another one. You know what I mean? Like, it's really easy to get discouraged, and it's really easy to be like, I'm not going to bother. But I think if you just ask, you're not offending anyone. And this guy, I just wanted to know for knowledge. I actually wasn't asking for a career. I just wanted to know more. Yeah. And that just paid off. And I have found that every step of the way, whenever I just ask because I want to learn, it has always paid off. In huge dividends. At the very least, I learned something, and at the very most, I get to work.
Yeah.
Or I've made a connection, because everybody likes to feel like they know what they're talking about. So no one's going to be insulted if you ask them a question. You know.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And then eventually it brought you out here, and did you follow on the heels of Archie's Weird Mysteries?
Yeah.
On sort of like, that's it, I'm going to head out to L.A. on the heels of that, and I had momentum, or was it more like, I just want to go out here and tell stories and figure out what more is out there? Was it more of a direct line from that time, or was it more knocking around for you before you came out? I came
out pretty soon after that. There was definitely not as much momentum off of that as I thought there would be.
That always seems to be the case, too. I keep expecting there to be way more momentum to things than I think that there seems to be.
You work so hard to get a certain gig, and then you're like, oh, this is it.
That's it.
Oh, wait.
I'm doing a signing. There's
right.
and then
this
it's like,
major.
You wake
up. I'm in
up.
a scene with Al Pacino.
That's right. The next day, you're still reading for local radio spots, and you're happy, but it's
still there. And I think that in this industry, what's hard is that there is no clear ladder. You know, there is no clear like map or stepping stone, and so things that you would think would be, oh, that's my next step, I think it's just not in the order you think, you know. That's a great point. Yeah. I totally agree. You're definitely building with a credit like that and an experience like that, you built a foundation. There's something you're adding to it, but it's just a lot harder to see than, oh, I graduated from high school, I take my SATs, I got into college, I graduate from college, I go to med school, I do, you know what I mean? That's such a clear map, and we just don't have it, and so it's really hard to not get discouraged. But I have always found that everything that I've done that I've been proud of, while it might not have given me the momentum I thought it would, it has always in some way surfaced later, and it's always been a good thing. So I did move out here thinking that I had some momentum from that, and I couldn't get a voiceover agent, and I couldn't get, because it wasn't. It was Deke was the production company that did it. Yeah. Which is like Inspector Gadget and like all these amazing shows. But I only had one series under my belt, and all these agents wanted someone who had a lot of series or was actively on one. Wow. Yeah. So I didn't get an agent immediately, but I just kept going, and you just take classes and you meet as many people as you can that you like, that are your tribe, and you just kind of build your own world. What was well, we don't have to get into specifics of names, but how long did it take you before you finally landed representation or got to a place where you felt like, kind of like, I know, like, for me, Los Angeles, and I had quite a bit of success in most of the other markets I worked, and I came up regionally. I started my voiceover career in Toledo, Ohio, doing on-hold messaging, and worked through Detroit, and then was in Cleveland, and then Chicago, and then moved out here. And every one of those markets took a little bit of time to sort of get acclimated. And not only, in Detroit, I could pick up the phone and get representation. Right. But in Chicago, it took me the better part of maybe 9-10 months to finally get, like, legit rep for everything. And that, in a way, was shocking, because I had already done, I was on main stage, Second City, I've done all this other stuff, but it was still this learning curve for that town. And that was helpful coming here, because I didn't expect it to not have a learning curve. Right. But the learning curve here is so great. Oh, it's so great. It's so steep and so tall. Yeah. And it's literally people falling off around you. It's intense. It is. And it can be frustrating too, because you'll get here and you'll if you arrive at the same day with somebody, and the next I remember I started an acting class, and there was a guy who had arrived the same week I had arrived, and in that week he started dating a movie star. Jeez. Got repped by ICM and booked the lead of a feature film. And I remember thinking, oh my God, well, that sucks. I mean, I'm happy for him, but like, how is that even possible that you're able to do that? We arrived the same week, and then within a month, you know. And I had successfully found an apartment, you know, like to compare.
Yeah.
But I think that I think it happened too fast for him, and I think that he didn't know how to handle it, and I know he didn't even make it to the filming of the movie before he left town.
Wow.
Because he didn't know how to handle what had happened to him, and it happened too fast. And also, I think he took it a little bit for granted because it had happened so easily. He's like, I'm just going to go home for a little bit and come back and maybe something else, you know, and it'll happen again. And it took me much longer to get to that point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide, have I ever dated a movie star? I've been on a date with kind of a star, but it took me a while to get to that point. And I was so much more grateful when it happened.
Yeah.
And when it happened, and there was the ups and the downs, and, you know, the movie that he had booked fell apart, and that devastated him. And I've been part of so many things that have fallen apart that I think sometimes it's good to have that learning curve and have to stick through to the bitter end, because then you know how to take it in a stride.
I agree.
And so the fact that you had experienced it on so many different levels before you even got here, I think is amazing. I don't remember how long it took me to get an agent. I know that I've been lucky in that I've almost always had a representation of sorts. What took me a long time is to find an agent that I knew how to communicate with and knew what to do with me, because I've got dark skin and dark hair, and I talk like a girl from the valley, right? So they would send me out for roles like the maid, you know, or other roles that you would send out Hispanic people out for. But then I would come in, and actually I barely know how to speak Spanish. I know how to speak French. And so then that didn't really quite work for the boxes that LA has. And that's why voiceover has been so fun, is that the only box is what your voice is stuck in, nothing else.
Yeah.
So I had great agents as I was coming, but they didn't ever really know what to do with me, and I had no idea how to communicate with them. And so the biggest growth that I had was learning how to speak to my agents and say, hey, so that last one you sent me out on, thank you, but I'm not going to book things like that. These are the things that I'm right for, and being able to have the strength of realizing we're a partner, we're working in this business together, and I need to be able to be okay communicating with them, and they need to be okay with me communicating with them, and not treat me like a brainless actor.
Right.
And so that it took me a while to get to that point, but I really love all my representation that I have right now. I feel like I have that communication with all of them, and I'm over at Vox for voiceover,
awesome.
And they're fantastic. And it was interesting because I kept trying to get into them for voiceover, and I had friends. I don't know how many friends recommend me to them, and they were like, nah. And then I got in via motion capture.
Really?
Which is the last thing I expected. But they had the foresight to create a motion capture division in their voiceover agency.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I got in. And then they were like, oh, wait, you do voices? And then they brought me over to voiceover. And they're incredible over there. Like, I've really been happy with them over there. And then I actually just signed with an agent for directing.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that I'm so excited about. And he's just the coolest guy. And we'll get on the phone and talk for an hour because we just vibe on each other, so that's really cool.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Oh man, congratulations on that. That's amazing.
I'm so proud.
That's cool that you're it's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you in the first place. I'm fascinated by what little I know about you, how diverse you are in your interests within the industry. I talk a lot on here about trying to stay trying to stay like diverse in what I do in voiceover.
Right.
So like an audiobook this, and I do this thing and do impressions, voice matching, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like to have the diversity outside of the disciplines too, from the standpoint of I don't just perform.
Right.
I'm also a writer and a director, and I produce, and I know how to have those skills. And
you have the show.
You have a show.
Yeah.
So if things are slow, you create them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like, what led you down the directing path? What took you into that place?
I started producing before I started to direct, mainly because there were just so many stories I wanted to tell, whether they were mine or other people's that I had read, and I just kind of looked around and went, wait, no one's making these. Can we make these? This would be so much fun. How cool would this be to share this story?
Yeah.
So I started producing first, but my first directing job outside of theater, because I had directed a little bit of theater before, was a friend of mine who's a musician named Faye, and she asked me to direct her music video. And I actually turned her down at first because I didn't think that I was qualified, and I had never considered directing before, and I didn't. And I grew up without a television, so I actually, have seen maybe 50 music videos in my life at that time, and so I couldn't even really tell you what a music video, like the construct of it and how to edit it and direct it. But I adored her, and I appreciated her faith in me, and she was really pretty insistent about it, and she just trusted me, and she knew that we would work well together. So I took the plunge, and I read as many books as I could and called anybody I knew that was a director and said, hey, help, what advice can you give me? And I worked with her, and she was just so creative already and had such a clear vision of what she wanted that it made it, much easier. And so I directed that first music video, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved being able to work with all the different people and keep the set running and keeping it fun. And one of my favorite moments is we had a cameo actress who had been on Mad TV who was going to come be in the music video. And she had said, you have me for 30 minutes, and that's it. You only get me for 30 minutes. I am busy and I have other things to do, and I will do this as a favor. But, and I appreciated the fact that she was so upfront with her time. So she showed up. We used her immediately. We played. We had fun. We talked back and forth. We created all this stuff. And then it was 29 minutes. And I was like, all right, that's it. Thank you for your time. You can go. And she goes, oh, what? I could probably stay a little bit longer. And we ended up keeping her for a bunch more hours. And then I overheard her telling someone later on, I don't think she saw that I was standing there, maybe she did, but she said, I don't remember the last time I had a director talk to me.
Wow.
She said, I've been working in television for years, and they don't talk to you, and they don't let you have fun and create. And she's like, I just had the most fun today.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then when I heard that, it made me realize that that's the kind of director that I want to be. And I loved getting to work with her and work with all these different people. So that was my first taste of it, and I was really happy, and I was really proud of how it came out. It was the first thing I ever directed, and it's a music video called "Give It to Me Straight." And the musician, her name is Faye, and she, I believe, wrote it and performed it. And
F-A-Y or F-I-Y-E? Okay, good.
F-A-Y, and she's just gorgeous.
Awesome.
So people should definitely check it out.
Awesome. I'll put a link up on the. I can put a link up.
That's exciting.
I can actually put links attached to things. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool. When it comes to your voice work and your prep for in particular when you're building a character for an audition, whether it's video game or animation or whatever you're looking at, what's generally your process from when you get script to saying, okay, here's my takes? How do you approach your character creation?
Such a good question. A lot of it depends on the script, because sometimes you get a script that's so good there's no choice as to where you could go with it. Like, it's just so clear, and the dialogue is so clever and so interesting, and you can play with a bunch of different readings, but the interpretation is so clear. And then sometimes you'll get a script and you can tell that they weren't really sure what they were going for, and they're hoping that you'll help you discover it. The
character's just sort of there to move things forward, and anything you bring to it would be welcome.
Would be so welcome, and they'd love some ideas. So when somebody has a clear vision in their script and you know exactly where to go, I tend to trust the words a lot more. And you still break it down and make sure that everything that you're saying, whether you're on camera or voice or motion capture, that everything you're saying has a reason and there's justification for why you're saying it. When they don't know what they're doing, those are almost more fun because then you get to pull out your bag of tricks and be like, I'm going to try this one, and like I'm going to throw in this accent and this age, and I'm going to mix it in a little bit with this like speech impediment and see what comes out.
What's your go-to bag of tricks when you have a bag of tricks and you're like, not that it's like a. Because of my ear, I dial into celebrities.
Oh, you do? I'm so bad at that.
Do you really?
I can't do it. I've been sent so many voice match. And even times where people have said, oh my God, you sound just like that person, my normal speaking voice. Whenever I try to replicate it, I can't.
I understand.
How do you do that? Is that something you trained for? Is that just a natural thing that you picked up?
It's been a natural thing that I've just had an ear for, and it started with cartoon characters, and then as I got older and adult, my voice grew into being able to do more adults. I don't know how.
Oh, it's so
I really
cool.
don't. It's just like, Robert Downey Jr. is sort of here, and then it's just, to me, it's more like, it's the music of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
but
you
your
sort of,
face changed to look like him just then.
Like the one I get, so Michael Keaton is...
Oh, my God.
Right?
That's crazy. He just turned into Michael Keaton right in front of me.
That's Brian Delaney's favorite trick.
Was great.
Bruce Willis, yeah.
Yeah.
But when I saw Die Hard 9 times in the theater, and all I did after watching the movie was walk around. I would taking my ex-girlfriend to go see it. She's like, why are you talking like Bruce Willis? You've been Bruce Willis all night long. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. What are you talking? Why are you giving me a hard time?
Good.
But that's just been, it's been this. It's just been my ear.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
One of the things that it's so crazy. Do you know George Whittam at all? Know who George Whittam is? George is like him. He does a lot of studio installs and things like that, and we have a situation that we're working out at our place that George has been by a lot, and he turned me onto this thing called the Whole Life Challenge, and so I've lost a bunch. I've lost 10 pounds in a week doing this thing. Like I've stopped sugar. I've stopped eating flour and stuff. Right?
Holy cow!
It's basically paleo, but it's been good. And during this past week, along with getting sick, I started doing voice warm-ups, which I had never done before, outside of a theater program.
I need to start doing that. Aaron Fitzgerald was coaching me on how to start doing voice warm-ups, and when I do it, I can notice night and day difference, but I don't do it as much as I should.
America, I'm telling you, I had a session last week for a video game that I can't talk about.
Yay, I love those.
Yeah, no, me too. It's pretty exciting. But I went to go do it, and I knew it was going to be vocally stressful, and I had something else later, and I wanted to make certain that I would preserve my pipes.
Yeah.
So I went on YouTube and found, I'm driving to LA Studios, and I pull over and search on YouTube and then hit play, and then I continue to drive. Because I would never. That's right. I would never whip up my phone and just stream videos.
Right.
So I found this guy named. I'll put a link up, and I'll dub it in later. Doing singing warm-ups, and it's just really basic stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 4 little lessons, and each of them are maybe 4 to 7 minutes long, and to boil it down, you can do the whole thing in driving around town.
Yeah.
It's yawning. You yawn for a little bit, and then light coughing. Nothing severe, but just and heightening your awareness of these muscles.
Yeah.
And then lip rolls. Brrr, that. But I can't sustain that. I have a hard time sustaining it. So one of the things he's use your fingers. Yeah. It's buh, though. More than puh. So and then that exercise, exploring my range.
Oh, yeah?
So all of a sudden I'm going, I'm playing in my head voice.
Yeah.
And then I bring it down to the middle. And then I take it down to my chest.
Oh, interesting.
And I start to become aware of the separation of those zones. And when you have that awareness, so you do that for a bit, and then you do some scales. I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you work your way up and down the scales. So you do that for a bit. Then, is this right? I think the next one was ya. But ya, to do ya, you stick your tongue out, and you put it on your bottom lip, and then you go, yeah. But you don't want to move. You don't want to move your lower jaw.
Yeah.
So you make the ya sound with your tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stretching those back muscles on your tongue to loosen that up, right? So you do that. You do some scales with that. That was kicking in my gag reflex, so I had to kind of pump the brakes and okay, enough of that. And then the one after that was doing scales, but not laying into it, just tapping it.
Okay.
So what I'll do is when I'm driving, when I'm doing these exercises, I'll drive and then put on a song.
Okay.
Let's say it's Foo Fighters or something, or Imagine Dragons and Radioactive, and it's but you can just because I get bored with scales real quick, and I'm not super really. I mean, I was in madrigals in school. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm a pretty good singer,
Yeah,
and I can kill an Elton John and a Tom Waits. But anyway, but then you do that. But the thing is not to make it like, don't like sustain it. It's tempting,
Okay.
but it is literally like tap it really, really gentle, each of those notes, and keep them short. And then after that, it's vocal fry. Vocal fry has been the biggest difference for things for me over the past 2 weeks with this thing. Vocal fry is this sound. That. So but if you just like, just play it. Don't push it. Keep it real light, but do it for like 5 to 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. And then just have it there. I'm telling you, like this voice right here, like a little bit of this rasp, I was never able to do it this late in the day.
Interesting.
This is a morning voice.
Yeah.
I can do it when I wake up in the morning and my vocal fry is there and I can get like this sort of a tone, right? But now, because of those exercises, if I need it, like there was a voice match I had to do the other day that had like a really sort of rambly sound to it at the beginning. And it was late. It was like 5:30. Kids at Taekwondo. I run home real quick to do that. But I was able to hit those things because of that work. It didn't take long. I've been only doing it for like a week.
That's amazing. And your session, how did that go after the warm-up?
Great.
Yeah?
Fortunately, it wasn't incredibly vocally stressful.
Yeah,
so
vocally
I was kind of
stress can be... That's a whole nother level.
Oh, my God. Have you ever lost your voice at all?
Yeah, for a couple days.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, And I think it's because... In a way, you likened it to the in-game movements,
yes.
And like the in-game movements, it was my first time having done that kind of session before, so I didn't know how to prep myself, I didn't know how to prepare myself or protect myself, and I just blew it all. Blew it all out. But one of the things Eliza Jana said once, which I thought was brilliant, is like when you get in the booth and they have that spreadsheet in front of you, and it's like all the different sounds you have to do.
Yeah.
You get in there and you want to just blow through it as fast as possible because you want to do a good job and you want to, And one thing that she does is that she tells them up front, I'm going to take 30 seconds between each one.
Huh.
No matter what. Or 10 seconds or whatever it is. For some reason, my eye is really watering, just in case you were hearing me.
You all right?
Yeah, no, I'm so touched by your vocal warm-ups that I moved to tears.
Do you have a seasonal allergy thing?
No, I think I just got something in my eye or something. I only said it because in case I sounded like I was like crying into the mic, I didn't want you guys to think that I was overly emotional.
I noticed something was going on.
Yeah.
And we can cut. Hey, Gabe, can you mark this? We'll cut all this stuff out.
Okay.
So we can cut this out.
But I thought that was such a great idea because people, so often you forget to take care of yourself. And you need to do that in stunts, and you need to do that as an actor, and you need to do that as a voiceover actor, and make sure that you can get through to the end of the session and then do another session tomorrow.
Yes.
Otherwise you're really, screwing the pooch.
No doubt. What do you do to recover? What's your process for getting your situation back in terms of like...
I don't really have one.
Yeah.
I think I should probably develop one. I think I just don't talk, and I drink a lot of water and tea.
Yeah.
Mainly. Do you have something you suggest?
Yeah. Manuka honey lozenges.
Okay.
Get some Manuka honey lozenges.
How do you spell that? Manuka?
Manuka, M-A-N-U-K-E.
Okay.
Nope. Manuka ends with an A. M-A-N-U-K-A.
Okay.
And they now carry them at CVS.
Okay.
And I find them to be really comforting and really... Unlike other lozenges where it's just like candy, these really lubricate your throat.
Oh, okay. And you do that after it's injured, or do you do that maybe like going in before to protect it?
I do it going in. If I know I've got a heavy session, I'll pop a couple of those things and keep them in my mouth. And on the splash page for my Twitter page of All Over VO, and the background plate is actually a picture of what I use.
Oh, really?
And it's the Manuka honey, and then it's this herbal supplement called Chi-Co, and curcuma.
Okay.
And that it's an herbal supplement that it's actually a tumor reducer, and like they'll give it to dogs with cancer to help like reduce inflammation and stuff like that. And it helps your vocal cords. Like I'm telling you, like I did when I was doing BioShock Infinite, like some really vocally stressful stuff, and then some like voice match work that I had to come in and match, and that stuff got me back like in a day.
Oh, that's amazing.
After some really savage throat burning stuff. So like
can I just ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you ever say things like, after I was doing BioShock Infinite, and stop and go, that's awesome? Like, does that ever happen? Because like That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing title to be part of, and your work on that was amazing. And
Thank you.
I feel like it's important that we do that, right? That we go.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
If we don't keep a foot, that's why I love the cons so much.
Right.
The cons remind me of that. You know?
Yeah.
Like I did this thing called Voice NATO at Kamikaze.
Okay.
And we've done it 3 years now, and it's like Tata Shore and Andre Soliozo and Scott White and Eric Lopez, a bunch of dudes I know from CESD.
Amazing.
And they're all super fun, and they're all mimics, and Rachel Butera and Amy Phillips and Troop. So we'll do this thing where we play film clips and then we dub them as celebrities. It's just stupid fun.
Great.
It's a blast. And we've done it 3 years now, and I had just done Infinite and didn't really know how to be. Because no one is looking at you going, oh my God, you're that guy from that thing.
Right.
Although
the fans are so much more sophisticated now.
That's very true.
The fans are so much more sophisticated. I'm always surprised when someone comes up to me like, hey, you're the voice of something. And I'm like, oh, you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well.
thanks. How did you know?
Yeah.
So, but you didn't know how to be. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right. I really didn't. And I remember not talking with Fred about it, just hanging with Fred and watching him. And because there's so many amazing artists there, we went through the artist alley, and whenever someone was doing a Hulk thing, Fred would be like, oh man, can I take a picture of that? Fred is a fan first.
Yeah.
And then it comes out. He's like, I'm a huge fan. He's like, I not only, the Hulk means something to me personally because I get to play the Hulk. And then the guy is like, what? I thought it was a really slick way of being able to let people know.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Delaney about it because he's the player character in Fallout 4 and was kind of like, I don't know how to deal with, I don't want to be all like, go up to people and tell them I'm doing this or doing this thing because it just feels, gross.
Right.
And I was like, the thing that stuck with me was if you're a fan of Mike Schmidt, the baseball player. I don't know why I pulled Mike Schmidt out of nowhere because I told him Mike Schmidt because he's from Philly and he loves baseball.
Okay.
So Mike Schmidt was a baseball player. But rephrase: if you're a fan of, let's say, I don't know, Anne Heche, and then Anne Heche comes up to you and you don't notice her, but you're dressed like Anne Heche, like you're cosplaying Anne Heche, and she's like, "That's awesome, thank you." Like
that's going to make your day.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
As a fan to be approached.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how when I go to cons, and in particular when I see anybody who's part of the BioShock family, like if I see Elizabeth or a Booker or some little sisters from BioShock 1.
Oh, yeah.
Then I make a point of going over and saying, "Can I take a picture with you?" And then mentioning that I played Comstock.
And then they get so excited.
So excited.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to be able to share that excitement.
Right. Yeah,
how do you
that's
do
the best
it? Do you
thing
do
about
that
being
stuff?
about being a fan of the stuff you get to work on. With Halo 5, Tom, who's the stunt coordinator, he brought me my action figure because they made the action figures for the characters that I played, and then I mean that was just such a surreal, amazing experience. And
was that sort of for you top of the mountain, or what's kind of top of the mountain for what you've been able to do? You look back over your career and like, I can't believe I'm part of that.
I got to be in Old Republic, Star Wars Old Republic.
Oh, yeah.
I got to be a Jedi. That is probably top of the, I did the motion capture for in the 3 trailers that came out before the Old Republic.
Oh, yes.
And it was me, and I actually did all the cutscenes and the facial, and then they had somebody else who was doing all the incredible flip and work. But just getting to be a Jedi, and she was just such a badass Jedi. And so that was really incredible. And I think I'm just having so much fun. And I'm always, to me, something that I'm having fun on, that I'm proud of, and that somebody appreciates. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing that I'll go and take pictures with people. And I remember I was on a panel for a show, and there was somebody in line who was dressed up like my character, and she didn't know who I was, but I was thrilled because her costume was impeccable. So I was like, "Can I have a picture with you?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And she's just being super nice to a fan. Yeah. And we took a picture together, and then she was waiting in line to go to the panel, and then I saw her face when she walked into the panel room, and I was up in the panel with the card that said the character I was playing, and her jaw just dropped, and she just kind of gave me the smallest little wave, and she was like, and came up afterwards and was like, "Can I have a copy of that picture?" And that was just such a fun moment to have, you know. I don't always tell kids when I've been a voice of a character that they like, for the same reason that I didn't want to know that there were voices behind the characters. Like,
interesting.
I'd rather they think that, like, have their own imagination and go with it. But I recently had a little kid come up to me and ask me to do a couple of the voices from the show that she liked. And I think she was where I was. She didn't quite understand what it means, because I did the simple, a couple of samples of the voices, and then she looked at me very approvingly and said, "Yes, you do a very good version of those. You do a good job." But I don't think she realized that I was actually,
Yeah.
But what we get to do for a living, and a majority of the projects we work on we're so proud of, and then when people get excited about it, you get excited about it. And so there's a lot of times where I'll just go up to someone and just ask for a picture with them and not even tell them. Sometimes I will, but sometimes I won't even say anything, just because I'm just thrilled that it touched them in some way, But that being said, it is job security for people to know and for fans to know, so that you can continue to get hired again. I mean, that's why movie stars have their quote unquote job security, is because people show up to the theater for their movies, and if people who are hiring know that people show up to play these games because they love your work and respect your work, then that will definitely help.
That's right.
So it is important to do a little bit of connecting with the fans and letting them know you're there.
I totally agree. I think the fan engagement is at a place where it's never been.
Yeah, it's such a gift, actually.
It really is, and that people are so passionate and have the interest in the work, and and especially in contrast to because some of the folks you work with are just incredible.
Oh my gosh.
From the directing side, and then the cast, when you get to work with other castmates. Especially, I imagine in performance capture, you don't have to do a ton of stuff alone. Is that true?
Yeah, no, you're usually
always in an ensemble.
Unless you're doing the in-game movements, in which is usually a female version and a male version of everything. Other than that, there's a cast. There's usually about 5 to 6.
Okay.
Because of the demographics of the video games, is usually one woman and like 4 to 5 guys.
Yeah.
But you're usually with a group, and that's so much fun. It's you're just playing the entire time.
I got to do that a long time ago on Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. Was my mocap experience, and it is the most fun. And it was
really fun. And it's all in your head. I mean, it's just like voiceover. It's just all in your voiceover, because you're building a universe in your head, and everything you're reacting to and creating and everything. You don't have it. You'll have a cardboard box, and this is the bed, and you'll have another cardboard box, and this is your desk, and another cardboard box, and that's the baby. And you have to figure out a way to make it work, and I love that.
We're running out of time. I just wanted to follow up one last thing. For someone who's back out in Omaha and interested in doing this kind of work, what things would you recommend that helped you, that you can do in your life that help prepare you for this particular journey?
Well, there's 2 things. There's what I did, and then there's things I wish I had done. So what I did do was a lot of theater. I am a huge advocate of theater, whether you want to do on-camera work or whether you want to do voiceover work or motion capture. I think that's the place to really hone your abilities and your skills on your whole body as an instrument, So do as much theater as you possibly can. Any kind. It doesn't have to be Shakespeare. It can be anything. I think that's really important. I think in this world, and you touched on it, in this world that we have right now, you can reach out to anyone, and you can learn anything, and you can Google anything in a heartbeat. And there's so many resources out there. Yuri and Tara have an amazing book that I really recommend. On voiceover. And I don't remember the full title, but it's Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt, and search voiceover book, and it'll come up. Erin Fitzgerald's going to be coming out with a book soon too, which is all about, so you want to get into voiceover, here's some things.
Great.
The best thing you can do is figure out what your voice is. I think I will never sell a Lexus or a Rolls Royce with my voice. Maybe Disney characters. You know what I mean? You just have to listen to. You have to watch a lot of television and really pay attention to the voice, and listen to a lot of commercials and a lot of cartoons, and say, okay, this is my voice. This is what I can sell with my voice. This is the voice I sound like, and then just start emulating all the people that you can. And I also think I love sending people to voicebank.net. warmup.net.
Yes.
Because that is such an incredible... That's where anybody who's a voiceover artist has their demo reel.
Yep.
And it's just... The talent that's out there is amazing and inspiring and intimidating.
Yeah.
And inspiring and inspiring and inspiring.
Yeah.
So I say definitely do that, but find the people whose voices you respect and, just emulate them. For me, when I was learning how to do like little boy voices, I found myself, without even realizing it, I kept gravitating towards Debbie Derryberry.
Huh.
And so, and then I got to meet her, and then, and that just happened. So with the internet the way it is, you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
You really can. And the cool thing about voiceover reels is they don't have to be done... They don't have to be comprised of things you've actually done. You can create things, and you can write your own copy and put it all together, and all in GarageBand.
My first video game reel I produced with Pat Fraley, but my first friggin' commercial reel was all copy out of a magazine.
Yeah, exactly.
Copy out of a magazine, and then I updated my animation reel, and I didn't have a whole lot of animation to share, so I just recorded lines from comic books.
Yes. Oh, that's
and
brilliant.
Comic books are, because they give you context, they give you character, and then cutting it together, and it was enough. I gave it to Pat and Kathy. I was like, how's this sound? They're like, sounds great, kid. Let's keep going.
Yeah, that's so smart. I didn't even think about that.
Just really, really helpful, and putting a little bit of sound design, the technology, the tools, everything that's available to you. I feel like as doing what we do, you need to have a level of proficiency in a computer.
You do need to.
And like you say, either just ask and get either the help and assistance you need from someone or just the information you need.
The information's all there.
Yeah.
But definitely ask for help. And the other thing I would say is if you're going to ask any of these people that you respect for advice, make sure you follow up on it. There's just been so many times where I have heard friends complain about, and I have had the problem where someone will ask you for advice and then they don't follow up on it, and then you kind of feel like, well, why did I spend my time giving you my gems,
Yeah.
But you're the only one you hurt by not following up on it, because if you're asking the right people, they're really going to do their best to help you. But it's so exciting because it's all you. It's exciting and terrifying because it's all on you.
Right.
It's empowering, but it's also exhausting.
That's right.
Like, there's always a plus and minus, but it's all on you to do it. And you have that ability. Everything you have, everything that you need to do, you have within your fingertips.
How can people find you?
The best way, I guess, would be Twitter. At America_Young. Same thing for Instagram. And then my website is americayoung.com. I'm about to revamp it, so don't judge.
And do you have anything that's out that you're excited about that you want people to see, or stuff that's coming that you can talk about or that you can give a shout out for?
I have a bunch of things in post that I'm really excited to get out. This feature that I directed, I'm really excited to get out. The website is the film is The Concessionaires Must Die, so CMD the movie, Concessionaires Must Die. cndthemovie.net, and that has all the information on that, and hopefully that'll be coming out this year.
Awesome.
I'm really excited to share that with everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, I could talk to you all day. Thank you so much for coming
fun.
by.
Thank you.
You bet. America Young, ladies and gentlemen. Find her on Twitter and Instagram, and check out the website and look for The Concessionaires Must Die.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. You bet.
Bye,
We'll do that
guys.
next week. More stuff. Peace. This has been All Over Voiceover with Kif VH. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please go to iTunes and give us a positive rating. It truly helps. Follow me on Twitter at KifVH, or on Instagram at KifVH, or on Vero at KifVH. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon. Claim victory and depart the field.
Werewolf?
Yeah,